The hangar of Orion Station was always noisy, full of voices, tools, and the smell of metal. But that day the noise dropped the moment a tall alien pilot entered. He was from the Valkor species, known for their pride and sharp tongues. His uniform was shining, his boots echoed on the steel floor. He looked around as if every human and machine was beneath him. Near the center of the hangar, a human mechanic was bent over an engine. His hands were covered with grease, his uniform old and simple. He was young, but his eyes were calm. He worked slowly, checking each bolt as if the galaxy outside did not matter. The alien pilot stopped and stared at him, then laughed. His voice rang across the hangar. "So this is the human mechanic they trust with my ship. Look at him, dirty and slow. Does he even know how to hold a tool?" The other workers turned their heads. Some frowned, some looked down. None dared to answer. Humans were still seen as weak in many alien fleets. The human mechanic did not reply. He wiped his hands on a cloth, gave a small nod, and returned to his work. The alien pilot walked closer, his long shadow falling on the mechanic. "Listen, human. This is a warship, not some farm machine from your little planet. If you make a mistake, I will make sure your people are banned from this station forever." His words dripped with arrogance. The mechanic looked up slowly, his eyes calm. He did not argue. He only gave a faint smile, the kind of smile that was not fear, not anger, but something deeper. No one understood it, not even the alien. The pilot narrowed his eyes. "Why do you smile, human? Do you think this is a game?" The mechanic said nothing. He bent down again and tightened a line in the engine. The silence in the hangar grew heavy. Everyone was waiting. The alien shook his head and laughed again. "Pathetic. Humans will never rise above cleaning ship." As he turned and marched away, the ground trembling under his boots. As he left, whispers spread among the workers. Some were angry, some felt pity for the mechanic, but none dared to challenge the alien pilot. His rank was too high, his pride too sharp. The mechanic stood up and walked around the ship slowly. His hand brushed the metal skin of the vessel. He tapped gently on a panel, listening to the hollow sound. His eyes narrowed. He saw something others had missed, a small misalignment. A faint vibration. It was a mistake in the alien's own adjustments, a mistake that could grow dangerous in flight. He pulled out his small notebook, not a datapad, not advanced tech, just a simple old notebook. He wrote a few lines, closed it, and placed it in his pocket. One of the younger human workers whispered, "Why didn't you answer him? He insulted you in front of everyone." The mechanic looked at him, his face calm. "Sometimes silence is stronger than words," he said, then returned to tightening the last bolt. Outside, alarms signaled the alien pilot preparing for launch. He was going to show off his ship, to prove his skill, to humiliate the humans even more. The mechanic finished his work, wiped his hands again, and stood quietly at the side of the hangar. He watched the alien board the vessel. The hangar crew gathered, the massive doors opened, space stretched black and endless beyond. The alien shouted, "Watch carefully, humans. See what true skill looks like." His voice echoed through the comm system. The ship engines roared to life. The ground shook. The lights flickered. The ship lifted from the floor. The mechanic's calm eyes followed every detail. The faint vibration he had noticed earlier grew louder. The ship trembled slightly. Others thought it was just normal, but he knew better. As the alien grinned and pulled the ship into open space, the mechanic, at his faint smile returned, a quiet smile that carried weight. The other workers looked at him with confusion. "Why do you smile? What do you see?" one of them whispered. The mechanic gave no answer. He only kept watching the ship disappear into the stars. His silence felt like a secret, a warning, and a promise at the same time. In that moment, no one in the hangar knew the truth. But soon, the galaxy itself would understand why a calm human smile could shake empires. The alien pilot's ship disappeared into the stars, leaving the hangar filled with silence. The workers slowly went back to their tasks, but their eyes kept glancing at the human mechanic. They had all seen that strange smile, and they all felt something was hidden behind it. The young mechanic, whose name was Elian, walked quietly back to his corner. He opened his old notebook again. Inside it were lines of notes, sketches, and strange symbols. He had been keeping records for years, every alien ship he had worked on, every mistake he had seen, every design flaw, all written in simple handwriting. He ran his hand across one page, the page where he had written about the Valkor ship systems. He knew them too well. He had seen how pride made Valkor pilots blind. They trusted their status more than their machines. And that blindness always left cracks. A senior human worker came closer, whispering, "Elian, you saw something wrong, didn't you?" Elian looked at him, his eyes calm. "Yes," he said softly, "but he would never listen. He thinks he knows everything." The senior worker frowned. "If the ship fails in flight, many could die." Elian closed his notebook slowly. Sometimes lessons must be learned the hard way. The worker shivered, not from the cold, but from the weight of Elian's voice. It was not anger, it was not revenge, it was simply truth. Hours passed, the hangar stayed busy, ships came and went, but everyone was waiting for the arrogant alien pilot to return. Some expected him to come back laughing, some expected him to mock the humans again, but Elian's silence made their hearts uneasy. Suddenly, alarms rang. The large display in the hangar lit up. The alien pilot's ship was calling for emergency landing. Red warnings flashed across the screens. The workers rushed to the windows. The ship was approaching fast. Its flight was unstable. Sparks flickered from its side. The engine roared too loud, too rough. Inside the hangar, tension grew. The alien pilot's voice came over the comm system, but this time it was not arrogant. It was sharp with panic. "Control systems failing, stabilizers unresponsive, prepare emergency dock." The crew scrambled, lights flashed, doors opened, rescue teams ran forward. Elian stood still, his eyes fixed on the trembling ship. His faint smile returned, not out of joy, not out of cruelty, but because the truth was unfolding exactly as he had seen. The ship landed hard, metal screamed, sparks flew, smoke filled the hangar. The alien pilot stumbled out, his proud uniform now covered in sweat and ash, his face pale with shock. He shouted, "What did you humans do to my ship?" His voice echoed, filled with both fear and anger. The hangar fell silent. All eyes turned to Elian. The mechanic walked forward slowly, his steps calm, his hands still carrying the marks of grease. He stopped in front of the alien, their eyes locked. "I touched nothing," Elian said softly. "Your ship broke itself." The alien's face twisted with rage. "Liar, you sabotaged it." Elian shook his head. "You mocked humans, but you did not see your own mistakes. Your pride made you blind, and your ship answered." The alien opened his mouth, but the words died. Deep inside, he knew the truth. The hangar master stepped forward. "Mechanic, can you repair it?" Elian nodded once. "Yes, but not now." His calm voice carried weight. "Let him sit with his failure first." The alien clenched his fists, his body trembling. Never before had he been humiliated like this in front of humans. Never before had a mechanic spoken to him with such quiet strength. He stormed away, but the whispers had already started. Humans whispered to each other. Aliens whispered too. Everyone had seen the panic in his eyes. Everyone had seen the calm in Elian's. That night, when the hangar grew quiet, Elian returned alone to the damaged ship. He moved silently, his tools glinting in the low light. He ran his hands over the broken parts, his eyes scanning every crack, every burn. He repaired small things without logging them, subtle corrections that would keep the ship alive just enough, but he left the deeper flaws untouched. As he worked, he whispered to himself, "Machines speak, but the proud never listen." His notebook lay open beside him, a new page half filled with notes. He wrote a single line before closing it again. "The galaxy will learn." When he stepped back, the ship seemed almost alive under his touch, its hum softer, steadier, but still carrying hidden scars. Elian looked at the stars beyond the hangar doors. His faint smile returned. He knew this was only the beginning. What had happened today was not just about one arrogant alien pilot. It was the start of something larger, something that would shake the galaxy. The next morning, the hangar was filled with whispers. The arrogant alien pilot had spent the night in anger and shame, yet his pride was still alive. He walked into the hangar with his head high, pretending nothing had happened, his uniform polished again, his eyes sharp with fire. "Prepare my ship," he ordered, his voice full of command. "I will show everyone yesterday was only a small error." The workers looked at each other, fear mixed with curiosity. They had seen the failure with their own eyes, but none dared to speak. Only Elian stood silent in the corner, his calm eyes watching. The alien climbed into the cockpit. Engines roared to life. Fire and light spread across the floor. The ground shook as the ship lifted. The hangar doors opened. Darkness of space waited beyond. As the ship rose, the mechanic Elian closed his notebook slowly. He had written something on the last page before the launch, a warning only he understood. The alien shouted over comms, his pride echoing, "Look, humans, I will fly this machine as no one else can." The ship darted out into the black void. Stars glittered around it. At first, the movements were sharp and proud. The alien pulled the controls with arrogance, twisting and turning as if to prove his mastery. But soon the hum of the engines changed. The vibration returned, stronger than before. Panels inside flickered. Alarms screamed inside the cockpit. The alien's smile faded. His hands gripped the controls tighter. "Stabilizers, respond," he shouted. But the ship swayed violently. Inside the hangar, workers gathered near the monitors. They saw the vessel spin, its trail uneven, its glow unstable. One whispered, "He's losing control." Alien's calm voice answered. The ship warned him yesterday. He ignored it. Suddenly the alien's voice filled the hangar. Panic replacing arrogance. "Systems failing, controls unresponsive. I need assistance. Prepare emergency override." The crew scrambled, but override codes failed. Nothing worked. The alien's face appeared on the main screen, his eyes wide with fear, sweat dripping. For the first time, he looked not like a proud warrior, but like a lost child. The hangar master turned to Alien. "Can you do something?" Alien walked forward slowly, his steps steady. "He will call for me soon." And just as he said, the alien's voice cracked through the comms. "Mechanic, human, I need your help." His words cut deep, full of desperation. The entire hangar froze, silence heavy. Never had a Valkyr pilot begged a human. Alien looked at the screen, his calm face unchanging. "You insulted humans, ye. Mocked me. Why should I help you?" His voice was soft but carried power like thunder. The alien stammered, his pride breaking apart. "Please, I cannot control it. I admit I was wrong. I need you. Only you can save this ship." Gasps spread across the hangar. Workers stared in disbelief. An arrogant Valkyr pilot begging a human mechanic. History was being made before their eyes. Alien closed his eyes for a moment, then spoke. "I will not save you. I will save the people who will die if your ship crashes. Remember this difference." He picked up his tools, his notebook, and moved to the control panel. His hands flew across keys, entering sequences no one else understood. His calm voice guided the ship's failing systems. "Reduce thrust by 40%. Align your secondary stabilizer with manual override. Stop fighting the ship. Let it guide you," Alien instructed. The alien obeyed, sweat dripping, voice shaking. "It's working. The ship is calming." The vessel steadied. Its violent sways turned into smoother arcs. Slowly it descended back toward the hangar. The workers held their breath. Sparks still flew. Alarms still rang. But under Alien's guidance, the impossible became possible. The ship touched down hard but safe, metal groaning as it kissed the ground. The alien climbed out, his proud posture broken, his uniform stained with fear and failure. He looked at Alien, unable to meet his eyes. Alien put down his tools, wiped his hands, and spoke softly. "Machines are like people. They do not bow to arrogance. They bow to respect." The hangar was silent, then whispers spread again, louder this time. Humans whispering with pride, aliens whispering with disbelief. The arrogant pilot had mocked a human mechanic. But in the end, it was that same mechanic who saved his life. The galaxy would not forget this moment. Elian walked back to his corner, opened his notebook, and wrote another line. "Arrogance breaks faster than metal." Then he closed it, his faint smile returning, but in his heart he knew. This was not the end. This was only the beginning of a storm that would shake every empire. The hangar was quiet after the crash. The alien pilot sat on the floor, his head in his hands, his pride shattered like broken glass. No one laughed, no one mocked. The silence itself was heavy. The hangar master turned to Alien, his voice low but urgent. "How did you know? How did you control a ship designed only for Valkyr pilots?" Alien wiped his hands on his cloth, his calm eyes steady. "Machines speak the same language to those who listen," he said, then walked back to his corner. But the whispers refused to die. Workers, both human and alien, had witnessed something unforgettable. A proud Valkyr pilot begging a human for help, and that human saving him without fear. That night the story spread across the station. Voices carried it from hangar to cafeteria, from cafeteria to council chamber. Everyone asked the same question. Who is this mechanic? The alien pilot could not sleep. Shame burned in his chest. His mind replayed the moment when he begged. His voice cracked, his eyes wide with fear. And worst of all, he begged a human. He swore to himself, "This cannot leave the station. I will erase this story." But he was too late. The story was already alive. The next day, 3 Valcor officers came to the hangar, their uniforms bright, their eyes cold. They walked straight to Elian. "You will explain what you did yesterday," one of them demanded. Elian looked at them, calm as ever. "I saved a life," the officer sneered. "No human mechanic can override a Valcor warship system. Only pilots trained in our academies can. Tell us the truth." Elian closed his notebook slowly. "The truth is simple. Your designs are old. Human warships solved these problems centuries ago. I only remembered what my people had already mastered." The officers froze. Shock rippled through them. Humans were not supposed to have knowledge greater than Valcor fleets. Humans were supposed to be weak, simple, slow. One officer hissed, "You lie." Elian gave that faint smile again, the same smile that had unnerved the pilot. "If it is a lie, then test me. Bring any ship, and I will show you." The officers glared, but deep in their eyes there was fear. The hangar master stepped between them. "Enough! He saved a life. Leave him." The officers turned sharply and left, but their whispers carried through the corridors. Later that day, Elian was called into the council chamber of the station. Humans rarely entered there. The walls were high, the floor polished. Banners of different alien species hung heavy above. A counselor, tall and scaled, leaned forward. "Human, you embarrassed a Valkyr pilot. You humiliated an officer of the Empire. Do you understand the weight of this?" Elian bowed his head slightly. "I understand. But truth is heavier than pride, and truth cannot be erased." The chamber murmured, some angry, some curious. Another counselor asked, "Where did you learn these systems?" Elian raised his eyes, calm and clear. "I was born on a ship that never appears in your records, a Terran warship hidden from the galaxy. My father was its engineer, my mother its medic. I learned to listen to machines before I could walk." Gasps filled the chamber. The word Terran warship cut through the air like a blade. Legends whispered of Terran ships that had once stood against entire fleets alone. Ships that disappeared into shadow. Ships that no empire ever managed to control. The council chamber shook with whispers. "Is he lying, or is this true?" Elian spoke again. "I am not here to threaten. I am only here to remind you. Mocking humans carries a price. Sometimes the price is small, sometimes it shakes empires." The counselors fell silent, each of them feeling the weight of his words. Back in the hangar, the alien pilot watched from a distance, rage and fear burning inside. He wanted to strike Elian, to silence him, but deep inside he knew the truth. He knew that the human mechanic had saved him, and that without him, he would be dead. That night, the pilot tried to drink away his shame, but the whispers grew louder. Recordings of his begging voice began spreading across channels. Some alien crews laughed. Others stayed silent with unease. On the far edge of the station, a message was sent out, a simple one carrying across the void. "A human mechanic outwitted a Valkyr pilot. Beware the calm smile of Earth." The words traveled fast, faster than the pilot could stop, faster than any empire could control. In the dark of the hangar, Elian opened his notebook once more. He wrote carefully, his handwriting steady. "Truth revealed is a seed. Seeds grow into storms." He closed the book, placed it in his pocket, and leaned against the silent ship, his eyes looking at the stars. His faint smile returned. He knew the storm had already begun. The story of Elian spread like fire. Whispers turned into messages, messages turned into reports, and soon fleets across the sector were speaking about a human mechanic who humbled a Valkyr pilot. Inside the hangar, life looked normal. Ships arrived, ships departed, tools clattered. But underneath, the air was heavy. Everyone kept glancing at Elian, some with respect, some with fear. The alien pilot who had mocked him refused to show his face. He stayed hidden in his quarters, drinking in silence. His pride shattered, but the galaxy outside did not allow him to heal. Recordings of his desperate voice had spread, and everywhere he was called the pilot who begged a human. One evening when the hangar was almost empty, 3 strangers entered, their faces hidden under cloaks. They walked straight to Elian, their steps sharp, their silence louder than words. The first spoke, his voice low but firm. You carry knowledge no human should have. We must know where it came from. Elian looked up from his notebook, his eyes calm. I already told the council. I was born on a Terran warship. The second leaned forward. The Terran warships are myths, tales told to frighten cadets. They could never have existed. Elian gave that faint smile. Machines do not care if you call them myths. They live, they breathe, they wait, and they teach those who listen. The strangers exchanged uneasy glances. One whispered, "He speaks like one of the old engineers." Suddenly, alarms blared through the hangar. The main screen lit up with a fleet transmission. A Valkor battleship was arriving, its commander demanding audience. The workers froze. Tension gripped the air. A battleship never came for routine inspection. It came to send messages of power. The ship docked, its massive shadow covering half the station. Its commander marched into the hangar, towering over everyone, his armor gleaming, his eyes sharp. "Where is the human?" he thundered, his voice shaking the steel walls. Ilian stepped forward calmly, wiping grease from his hands. "I am here," the commander glared. "You embarrassed my pilot. You humiliated the Valkyr. Now you will show me if your skill is real or if you are nothing but lies." He snapped his fingers, and two soldiers rolled forward, a damaged core glowing with unstable energy. "This reactor has killed 10 engineers already. Fix it or die with it." Gasps filled the hangar. The core pulsed dangerously. Anyone near it felt heat prickling their skin. The alien commander crossed his arms, certain the human would fail. Ilian walked forward slowly, his eyes scanning the core, his hands steady. He knelt beside it and placed his ear near the humming metal, as if listening to a heartbeat. Minutes passed in silence. Sweat dripped from the faces of those watching. The core shook, light flickered. Then Ilian opened his notebook, flipped to a page filled with strange symbols, and whispered, "You breathe too fast. You choke on your own fire." He peed. Held out 3 simple tools. Adjusted a line here, tightened a bolt there. His hands moved like a musician, each motion precise. Suddenly the core steadied, its violent glow softened. The hum turned smooth like a calm river. The hangar erupted in gasps. The commander's eyes widened, disbelief breaking his mask. Ilian stood, wiping his hands again. "Your design is flawed. It steals from itself until it dies. But now, it will live." The commander stepped forward, staring at him. "No one outside our academies knows this system. How did you—" He stopped. His voice caught. Ilian looked into his eyes, calm, steady. "I told you. I was born on a Terran warship. I learned from machines older than your empire." The commander's fists tightened, but he did not strike. He turned and marched away, his soldiers following, but not before giving Ilian one last look of fear. After they left, the hangar filled with whispers again. "He fixed what killed 10 engineers. He knows more than the Valkor themselves. What if humans are not weak at all?" That night, messages spread faster than ever, not just whispers but official reports. Commanders writing to fleets, fleets writing to councils, everywhere the same warning. Humans carry knowledge beyond our reach. Beware. Elian sat alone in the quiet hangar, his notebook open before him. He wrote slowly, "Knowledge is a weapon sharper than any blade." Then he closed it. Outside the station, the galaxy shifted. Empires that once ignored humanity now turned their eyes toward it, some with hunger, some with fear. And in the silence of the hangar, Elian's faint smile remained. He knew the galaxy had only seen a glimpse. The real storm was still waiting. The arrival of the Valkor battleship should have silenced the whispers, but instead it made them louder. Every corner of the station now buzzed with the story of the human mechanic WW. Ha fixed what killed 10 trained engineers. The alien pilot who once mocked Elian could no longer leave his quarters. Wherever he went, mocking voices followed. Aliens laughed at him. Humans smirked in silence. He had become the symbol of broken pride across the galaxy. Messages carried the same theme. The Valkor are no longer untouchable. A human mechanic saved their lives and they begged him for help. In fleet halls and council chambers, powerful voices debated. Some demanded humans be restricted. Others whispered that they should be recruited. None could ignore them anymore. One evening, Elian was summoned again, this time not by officers but by the station council itself. The chamber was crowded. Banners of many empires hung high, their representatives staring at the lone human walking in with a grease-stained uniform and a small notebook. The council leader, a scaled creature with eyes like cold fire, spoke first. "Human, Your actions have created a storm. You humiliated a Valcor pilot, you embarrassed their commander, and you spread fear into the fleets. What do you say for yourself? Elian looked up, calm as always. I only listened to the machines. They told me their pain, and I answered. The chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. Some called it arrogance, others called it truth. Another counselor slammed his fist. Machines do not speak, you play tricks. Elian gave that faint smile. Machines speak, but only to those who respect them. Arrogance deafens the ears, pride blinds the eyes. His words cut deep, sharper than any blade. The chamber grew silent again. Suddenly, the doors burst open. The arrogant alien pilot himself entered, his eyes bloodshot, his uniform wrinkled, his pride shattered, but his anger burning. Enough of this, he shouted. He is no hero, he is a trickster. He shamed me. He shamed the Valkyr. I demand he prove himself in front of the galaxy. The counselors leaned. Forward, whispers filled the chamber. Some excited, some afraid. Elian turned his head slowly, his calm gaze meeting the broken pilots. Prove myself, he said softly. I have already done so. But if you need more, bring your ships, bring your fleets, and I will show you again. Gasps spread across the chamber. No human had ever spoken with such quiet defiance to the council. The alien pilot's voice cracked with rage. Then I challenge you, human. Tomorrow you will face me. I will fly, and you will keep my ship alive. If you fail, every human on this station will be exiled. The chamber shook with shock. Exile meant death for many. Exile meant disgrace for all. The council leader raised his hand, silencing the noise. So be it. Tomorrow at dawn, the human mechanic will face the pilot, and the galaxy will see the truth. Elian bowed slightly, his faint smile still there. Truth does not fear the light. That night the station was restless. Humans gathered in quiet corners, fear in their eyes. Some begged Elian not to accept. Some whispered that he had doomed them all. Elian sat alone in the hangar, his notebook open, his hand writing slowly. When pride challenges truth, pride always falls. He placed his tools beside him and looked at the stars beyond the hangar doors, but in the shadows above, hidden cameras recorded every move. Across the galaxy, feeds were prepared, empires tuned in. Tomorrow was no longer just a challenge between a pilot and a mechanic. It was a stage where humanity itself would stand against arrogance. The broken alien pilot sat in his chamber drinking again, whispering to himself, Tomorrow I will destroy him. Tomorrow the galaxy will forget my shame. But deep inside, fear gnawed at him. He remembered the calm eyes, the faint smile, and the machines that had obeyed the human. As dawn approached, the hangar prepared for the trial. Workers lined up, officers gathered, banners of empires hung heavier than ever, cameras hovered in the air, recording every breath. Elian walked forward, his notebook in his hand, his tools on his belt. He looked like nothing more than a simple mechanic. Yet every step he took shook the air with invisible weight. The alien pilot stood tall, forcing pride back into his broken body. He climbed into his ship, his voice echoing through the speakers. Today, the galaxy will see the truth. This human is nothing. I will fly, and he will fail. But Elian only smiled faintly, standing at the control panel, his calm eyes watching, his silence louder than thunder. Tomorrow had arrived, and the galaxy was watching. The hangar was silent when the challenge began. Banners of many empires hung heavy above. Cameras floated in the air. Every movement was being broadcast across countless systems. Billions of eyes watched, waiting to see if a simple human mechanic would rise or fall. The alien pilot stood inside his ship, his hands tight on the controls, his pride burning. He had sworn to erase his shame, to crush the human before the galaxy. He shouted through the speakers, Watch, this human will fail. He has no power, no place. Today I reclaim my honor. Elian stood at the control panel, his tools hanging from his belt, his small notebook in his hand. He looked calm, his faint smile resting on his lips. His silence made the crowd uneasy. The hangar master raised his hand. Begin! The ship roared, fire blasting from its engines. The ground trembled. The alien pilot pulled the vessel into the sky. The hangar doors opened wide. Space stretched beyond. At first the flight was sharp, smooth, perfect. The alien twisted the ship, rolled it, dove, and climbed again. He shouted proudly, See, I command this vessel, not a human mechanic. But Elian's eyes never moved from the screens. He saw what no one else saw. Small vibrations building, energy flow uneven, systems crying out silently. He whispered, almost to he. Myself in pride makes the same mistake twice. The alien laughed into the comms. Human, where is your miracle now? Nothing is failing. Elian pressed a few keys on the panel, his voice calm. Do not pull the right wing so hard. The alien froze. What? Do not pull it, Elian repeated, his eyes calm, but the alien snarled. You cannot command me, human. And he pulled the controls harder. Suddenly alarms screamed, sparks exploded across the cockpit, the ship shook violently, panels cracked, systems failed one after another, gasps filled the hangar, the crowd leaned forward, billions watching through screens held their breath. The alien pilot's voice broke into panic. Stabilizers collapsing, controls failing, I cannot hold it, help me! The galaxy heard it. Every empire, every fleet, they heard the proud alien begging again. Elian's fingers moved across the panel with calm speed, his voice steady. Reduce thrust, reroute power, listen to your ship, do not fight it, follow my guidance. The alien obeyed, his fear stronger than his pride now. His voice cracked. Tell me what to do. Elian's calm voice guided each motion. Release the left rudder, slow the pulse of your engine, align with the stabilizer, trust the machine, let it breathe. The ship steadied, its violent shakes softened. Slowly it turned back toward the station. Inside the hangar, the silence was louder than thunder. Humans and aliens watched as the vessel descended, its fire dimming, its broken frame still alive. The ship landed rough but safe, metal screaming as it touched the ground. Smoke rose, sparks scattered. The alien pilot stumbled out, his proud posture gone, his face pale, his voice silent. Elian walked forward slowly, his eyes calm, his notebook in his hand. He stopped before the alien and spoke softly, but every microphone carried his words to the galaxy. This is the truth. Elian said, machines bow to respect, not arrogance. Humans may be quiet, but we listen, we learn, and we endure. He closed his notebook, the sound sharp in the silence. Mocking a human brings payback, and that payback shakes more than one pilot, it shakes empires. The hangar exploded with whispers, humans smiling with pride, aliens whispering in fear. The council sat frozen, unable to deny what they had seen. The alien pilot fell to his knees, unable to hold himself upright. The galaxy had seen his arrogance break twice, and twice the human mechanic had saved him. Messages spread faster than light, across fleets, across empires, everywhere the same words repeated. Fear, the calm, human smile. Some empires laughed nervously, some grew restless, but others grew afraid because if one human mechanic could do this, what could an entire people achieve? In the quiet after the storm, Elian sat alone in the hangar, his notebook open. He wrote slowly, Today the galaxy saw, tomorrow it will remember. He closed it, leaned back, and let his faint smile return. And somewhere far beyond the stars, whispers of Terran warships stirred again, fleets that had vanished, ships that had never been defeated, machines that had waited in silence. The galaxy had only seen a shadow. The real storm had not yet arrived, but they all knew now humanity was no longer weak and the payback of one mechanic had shaken the galaxy.